Yo guys, it is Old Man G here, back again with another transfer update show. Actually been able to get some time to do on this time. And once again, we're joined by the amazing Tom, the journalist, my go-to journalist, to help us make sense of what is going on at Manchester United. And I think that is a big question. What actually is going on at Manchester United? We went from obviously signing Euro, Xerxes, and they're getting a bit of positivity going in. It's not really knowing what's going to happen with our fullbacks, with midfield, etc., etc. So obviously, there's been stuff coming out today about JONG to United, Manchester United going back in. Are we still going to be in for Ugarte, Sanderberg, essentially midfield-related stuff? Obviously, we've got De Ligt and Mazraoui on standby, and obviously, are United going to set Sancho, as well as other things. But before we get into it, guys, remember, if you are new to the channel, to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter at We Unite X and smash that notification button. And make sure you obviously go and follow Tom Jonas at Tom Jonas on Twitter as well. Tom, buddy. Oh, sorry, and also big up everyone in the chat as well. By the way, big up. Big up Rob. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Big up Ilias, who already has his say on Ineos right now for this. So new kit give no, I haven't. I haven't given the Glazers money in this. Don't worry. I'm not giving. I got this in an interesting way. Anyway, and big up on us, big up Soda as well, buddy. So yeah, Tom, buddy, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm not doing so bad, G, and yeah, I hope yourself's well. All the viewers and everybody is doing well as well. And yeah, don't forget, as she's already said, guys, like, share, subscribe as always. Let's get this channel growing and on the road up to the next milestone.
Exactly. I just need to go and get something, but let's actually get straight in. Obviously, guys, if you have any questions, get into it. I guess let's talk. I've seen some stuff regard. Well, I guess the subject is essentially Manchester's midfield situation, Tom, because there's been talk today about De Jong to United. PSG going to still be in for Ugarte, Sanderberg, etc. But could you kind of give us a bit of an update as to what actually is going on with Manchester United's midfield situation? Why is it stalling? Why are we not able to get? And then are we thinking about trying to get rid of Casemiro and like Eriksen first? Like, what's actually going on regarding this time?
Yeah, well, in terms of midfield, the one thing that I've always known when they've been targeting the midfielder was the basic consensus was they wanted somebody who was a designated number 6, but is also adaptable to play a number 8 role if they need to make cover in the squad. That's what they wanted. They looked at Ugarte out of all the profiles on the listings that they had, and they thought for a fair price, he fits what Ineos are calling the football criteria, but also the financial criteria if they got him in the sort of price window that they thought they was going to get him for at a catchment price. Considering that he's been at PSG 12 months, his stock's not exactly risen, and Manchester United don't believe that his stock has actually maintained. They do believe it's declined and defaulted slightly, but it's not gone like a massive dip off of the graph chart. And effectively, the midfielder that they wanted and that they've targeted has been Manuel Ugarte. They've had discussions with PSG for well over 2 to 3 weeks now. They've not put any form of incentive, PSG, to say that we're willing to negotiate at lower fees than what we're asking for. Their asking price was in and around 60 million. That was the asking price. Pounds, not euros. 60 million pounds. PSG effectively have put the clause on Ugarte to say that we bought him for 50 last summer. He's been here 12 months. We're happy to let him leave, but we still want to make a profit out of a player who's surplus to requirements for us.
Yeah.
And hasn't really blown the league, hasn't really blown our club's success up in the 12 months that he's been here. Manchester United look at that from a practical sense and they think it's untenable. How can you try and say and justify a player who's been there 12 months? You want 10 more million than what you've actually paid for him a couple of years ago, and you want rid of him. It doesn't make sense. There's no incentive for us to buy at those rates. And Manchester United's incentive was they were prepared, as far as I'm aware, to pay as much as £48 million, they're not going to stump up the other 12. They have made the whole package, and it's a whole package. It's a set fee, as far as I was aware, that they were willing to chunk out was 40 million as an upfront fee, and then 8 million in add-ons over 2 seasons. That was the structured deal that United had put forward. PSG weren't prepared to bite it. They're not interested in the proposal. They're interested in a package deal for 60, so say 55 and 5. But if it doesn't all add up to 60, they're not interested. So as soon as Manchester United have had that message relayed, they've tried to break PSG's barriers down and say, look, you need to negotiate with us. You want rid of the player. We want him. Do us a deal, even if it means that we pay just underneath what you bought him for 12 months ago. You're only losing 2 million. That's effectively what Manchester United have said to PSG, but they're just not prepared to play ball. Like what they've done with Everton with Branthwaite, they've just moved on. They're moving on to other targets and they're assessing other options. And if PSG negotiate, if PSG come back to the table with United and say, look, we're willing to renegotiate and reconsider how, say, a package of 55 million, and then United might turn and counter that and say, well, 50, and then you might get somewhere. But unless PSG are going to make the point of contact now, the Ugarte thing is pretty much on standby, because they're at a standstill and it's a crossroads, and that's where you're getting all these links now with other players. With what you said in regards to De Jong, as far as I'm aware, De Jong's happy at Barcelona. He's prepared to work under Hansi Flick under a new structure and a new coaching staff at Barcelona. He's on quite good money there, considering he had a barmy with them a couple of years ago, where he was due over 14 million euros, which over time now he's only owed, as far as I'm aware, 4 million euros in costings. So they have paid him over the last couple of seasons. So he's in a much comfortable position, both financially and also football-wise, where he enjoys his football and he enjoys the culture in Barcelona. And with regard to, say, Sander Berge is one of those targeted options where, if we can't get Ugarte, it's not a problem, because we've done business with Burnley before when we've brought in you've just brought in a goalkeeping coach from Burnley. You've also done business with Burnley before when you wanted to loan players there over the last couple of seasons. So there is a connection line there between the two clubs. It's quite simplistic to do a deal if you want to do one. And with Sander Berge as well, Burnley are happy to sell him for a reasonable price. And it comes in that windfall, a lot less than what you were going to pay for Ugarte. But the difference with Sander Berge is he's got a point to prove. He's been at a couple of different clubs now. He's come over to the Premier League with Sheffield United, spent a bit of time there. You're then at Burnley now. You kind of was in a settled system under Vincent Kompany. He's now left and moved on to pastures new. You've got an option to potentially come to Manchester United and prove something on a bigger stage. He's got a point to prove. He's one of those players that he has got something to prove. So Sander Berge, as far as I'm aware anyway, United, I've got contacts close to his camp. He's represented under, I can't remember if it's the same agent as Eriksson. It's it's a Scandinavian player anyway with a connection to United. I can't remember if it's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or if it's agent or if it's Christian Eriksen agent. It's one of the two of them. We're getting muddled up. I'd have to do a bit of research on it. So there is a point of contact connection there between the club and the agency. Personal terms, as I believe anyway, I don't think that would be an issue to bring him from Burnley to Manchester United, and he would relish that opportunity to come here. But like I say, United at this moment in time, they're assessing all the options. They've got a couple of different options on the table. They've got Richard Rios over in Brazil that they're looking at. They've also got Andre over in Brazil, which they're looking at. They're looking at a lot of different players, profiles, and price tags. And whichever one, like they did with the Ugarte thing, they basically narrowed it down to said, well, who fits what we want, football sense and financial sense. They're pretty much going through the same process again. And then as soon as they target it on one player that sticks, that's the player they were the one to target for. But they're not going to hang about now. They will go full throttle and accelerate in terms of getting a player that they want.
Thanks for the update, Tom. I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'll also read some of your comments, guys. I'll just get your questions in. But Yeah, I think that. I mean, I think there'll be a lot of people, obviously, and especially that are concerned about, especially with the season effectively starting on Saturday with the Community Shield, but obviously going to next week. That how prepared Manchester United are. But I think that hopefully what we're seeing different to other seasons is the speed at which Manchester United are going about this. So I think it's fair. I think that at the end of the day, if Manchester United have a limited budget, rather than trying to haggle people down um, you know um, to the very last pound or whatever and wasting time doing individual
Mm-hmm.
deals, we should just move on. We should say, listen, it's more important to actually get players in that fit the nature of the squad and get them in quickly than it is to try and haggle teams down, because we know that I can't remember the last time we've even done a in quote successful deal from PSG. If I'll be honest, I don't think Zlatan to United was. I think he was on a free or something. So
Yeah.
I I can't remember when, Everton, likewise, I can't remember when we did a successful from Everton, you know, yeah,
I
when we
think the
going on
last deal would have probably been
when what's his name
Lukaku.
came, was Lukaku
Lukaku from Everton to Manchester
Lukaku from
United
Everton.
was the most recent one. I think
Yes,
between the
okay,
two
fine,
clubs.
okay. Did he sign directly from? Was he at Inter? Okay, fine. But I just think that and we obviously spent quite a lot for them. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I just think that I think the main thing really is that Manchester United need to move quickly regarding trying to get a midfielder in. I think that I think that realistically, if we're going into the season with the same midfield as last season, I think we're going to be in a lot of trouble, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
trouble, and obviously that includes the sort of defense as well. Let me just quickly read some of the comments. So what is it? It says we have some same team from last year. Euro 3 months out. Zer's still not ready, although Xerxes apparently is ready. So that's something to be said. And hopefully we get some good ming. One man deals on the day often and it's man. Other teams selling Rush for super money like Smith and United can't get nothing for theirs. I mean, to be fair, I mean we sold. The person should not be named about 30 million to Marseille. So that was something. So and that would obviously go into the kitty bank. But the issue, the thing you need to understand, I think, in Carp is that when you say all these players and sort of, you also have to understand that a lot of these players are not on ridiculously high wages. That's always been the issue of Manchester United. How much was Emil Smith Rowe getting paid at Arsenal?
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot easier to sell players if the players are earning 100K a week or less, or 100, or maybe even 120K a week or less. But when they're
Yeah.
earning excess of 150K a week, the players go, well, we don't.
And then you've got agent bonuses on top, and
Exactly,
then everybody
exactly.
wants a piece of the pie, and then suddenly you're paying basically what you could get for another player just to sign one player, and basically pay everybody off in his inner circle to sign him. So then it
Yeah,
works out costing you more money anyway.
yeah. Let me, about Delit. We'll talk about Delit a bit later because obviously we need to wrap around the defense. We'll talk about the midfield for, but yeah. Obviously, the season starts on Saturday. We do need to be ready. We do. I mean, although I'm going to put schedule watch along because I'll be watching a Champions League. If anyone knows the UK, you got to be a little bit careful as things are going on. So I'm going to be nice in my house watching the community show from the comfort of my home, and hopefully many of you guys will join me while I'm watching the community shield as well. So we'll do that. But yeah, we'll have a lot to do this weekend with the community shield. Essentially season preview, match review, Premier League, all that type of stuff. So I'm going to try and schedule a lot of shows, a lot of shows over the weekend, and we'll try and get some stuff done. I'll be a bit earlier. So the teams will rip United off as they used to overpaying, and teams have no. But this is what I'm saying about Carpi is that I know people won't like it, but I still think it's better to do this way where we are just like, listen, okay, fine, we're going to. I think the Euro injury didn't help us, and obviously the reports were that Manchester tried to hide it because I think the Bayern now think, well, if Euro's injured now, you're going to be even more desperate to want to sign a centre back. So that probably wasn't ideal. But I think that if that's the case, and I think as well sometimes that some of these players that are there should also be pushing as well. If the Lit really wants to come to Manchester United, he should make that known and make his unhappiness known to the club, and work with us to actually get that price of deal agreed. Otherwise we go, well, listen, we'll go and find another centre back. So you've got the Gahey guy from Crystal Palace, who I assume Crystal Palace will expect a lot, but there are other alternatives out there. What else here? De Jong won't. Oh yeah. He needs to take a pay cut if he's going to join. He needs to take a pay cut. And then because Edison and Lantern Rio would be good. Just picking up terms of going. Well, it's just top 6 or 8 max. Well, I mean, the only thing I have is that we're in the Europa League, so and I think unlike last time with the new format change, you don't get any of the big teams dropping into the Europa League anymore. So I've looked at the Europa League.
No,
so
but you end up playing more matches because it's like a league tabling format. So then you might have, say, I think it's 8 group stage matches. But then if each round that you go through, you obviously have 2 matches to play over 2 legs. So then by the time you get to the final, I think you end up playing 16 matches, 17 matches, something like that. It's like half a season.
Yeah, I think essentially, I think that I think the most important thing in that is that we get into the top 8. So we get into the top 8, you can avoid the playoff games like the Champions League will have, because I think 8 to 24, those 16 teams basically go into a playoff for the round of 16 spots. So we need to make sure that we get into the top 8 of that league so that we can avoid at least 2 additional games, which will make a big difference. And then I guess the benefit of that is that there's no round of 32, none of that. So that's the hope. But looking at it, to be honest, the only difficult teams in the Europa League are probably likes of Roma, maybe Spurs, and it's Lazio there, and Frankfurt. I think those are basically the only couple of teams I think, what's going on? We now need to think about those teams, So, but if we strengthen our squad, I'll be honest, and we start well, there's no reason why United can't at least challenge for the Europa League. If we win the Europa League, that's your Champions League bye. Hopefully, So, Segun says, we're going to talk about again the defending in a second, actually. And someone said, De Jong, can you really see him coming in, Tom, or is De Jong going to just keep going up? I think Thomas mentioned Rob, where he said that as far as he's aware, De Jong is happy at Barcelona and wants to work with Flick. I think any talk about De Jong coming to Manchester United is just media speculation, to be honest. So I see. So final topic on the midfield is that do we? Because we obviously keep on talking about the ingoings, but is there any sign that because to be honest, I thought that at least one of Eriksen, Casemiro, maybe McTominay was going to leave. But the impression I get is that I think McTominay's probably going to stay, which I'm not adverse to. But the other two, is there any word at all, Tom, that any of these guys are going to be leaving the club?
Well, out of all 3 of them, the most likely one at the moment has always been McTominay. He had 2 bids put in for him. Fulham put a package together of 20 million, and it was a straight 20 million deal. United wanted a package deal, and McTominay's a little bit of a tight situation because United have put the stance of they don't really want to sell him, but we will let him go for the right price. That's effectively been the stance of it. He's a player that Erik ten Hag values. He sees his credentials as being a squad player and a member of the team. He doesn't necessarily see him as a starting 11 player, but he sees him as an integral player to come in and make an impact or a difference in a game if you need it, if you need a game changer player. He does see McTominay as that sort of player. And you can probably understand that given what he did for him last season in a lot of the games when he come off the bench in big moments and got him points and scraped by games and stuff. So, in the sense of that, Fulham had put a price tag on him. It said we'll bid 20, but United, to even entertain letting him leave, they wanted 30 plus 5. So they wanted 35 altogether. Now, Fulham are not going to pay the rates that Manchester United want. McTominay's a little bit different to a lot of the other members of the squad. He's not actually on a high wage at Manchester United, or considerably. He's not one of the highest earners. He's not one of the more high-profile names, I guess you could say, in the squad. So, from the sense of what we was just talking about before, G, why Man United struggle to sell players in comparison to, say, when Fulham have just bought Smith Rowe, for example, from Arsenal, it's a similar story. The difference is Fulham won't pay 35 million for McTominay because he's a lot older, he's a lot more experienced, albeit fair enough. But at the end of the day, the only difference between coming at Fulham and staying at Manchester United is at Fulham, he's almost going to be a guaranteed starter and he will get a lot more games. And his credentials at Fulham will probably be stay in the Premier League or top 10. That's going to be the aim at that club. The difference at Manchester United is he does have a chance to still inherit things, win trophies, and still have a success towards the latter end of his career. And he's one of those players who he doesn't demand a lot from the club. He's one of those players who he's been instilled in the academy. He's been brought through the ranks of it. He's got a personal connection to the Ferguson family. Manchester United is through his blood. That's the sort of player that Scott McTominay is. Now, I'm not here leading the campaign for Scott and PR for Scott McTominay, but at the end of the day, the point that I'm making is he's got a lot of credentials that United see in him as to why he should stay. And the only reason why they would let him go is if they get a credible fee for him. And like we were saying with players like Greenwood, because they're an academy growth player, if you want to squeeze as much money out of a deal of any club for an academy growth player, because on your PSR sheet, you put losses 0, profits whatever you make from the deal. That's it. So it effectively maximise your profits for the deal that you can. Eriksen is the same thing. The problem with Eriksen is he's at the age profile where you can't really market him to sell to a club. But also, one of the things behind Christian Eriksen was he has an external defibrillator. Now, the reason being, he actually left Inter Milan because the Italian FA, effectively, banned prohibitions of breathing apparatus or breathing... I can't remember what the word was that they used anyway, the terminology. Effectively, they banned what Christian Eriksen had operated on within his body to help with his blood circulation and his breathing because of the incident that happened at the Euros in 2020. The Italian FA, it had been prohibited in Italian football. There was questioning whether they should overturn the clause because of what happened to Christian Eriksen. They didn't in the end, so he had to leave Inter because he can't play in the Italian league under their guidelines and health rules. In the Premier League, you can play with a defibrillator. You can still play with health commitments on the side, so long as you've got the right management structure and medical structure in place for the player shouldn't anything happen again. So in England, the rules are different to in Italy. The problem is, if you want to sell Christian Eriksen, you're limiting where you can sell him to. You can't sell him to Italy because of the laws of the rules. I'm pretty sure Spain have a similar jurisdiction on it as well. So there's 2 major European leagues you can't sell him to. That's a problem because a lot of marketed clubs, especially from Italy, I think would buy a player like Christian Eriksen because he suits that league. I also think Spain maybe wouldn't suit him based upon the speed of the play that they play at and what we're seeing with him in the Premier League where people say that his legs have gone. So there's 2 leagues that you can already write off anyway. So where's he going to go? Either somewhere else in the Premier League, maybe, because the rules are stringent and you can still play in this league. To France, I can't really see somewhere in France that he might go to. So suddenly you're struggling to find a club for him. And that's what United are having the problem with. They can't find buyers. Casemiro, again, they have a lot of clubs interested in him. Middle Eastern clubs, I've said this before about PAF's investment clubs.
Of course,
PAF contact you. They say we'll pay so much for the player. They then choose what club that player goes to or if they have a preference, if it
Mm.
matches with PAF's alignments for what they have the vision that's in the Saudi Pro League, then they send them to that club. The PAF investment scheme with their country at the moment, you might notice something with the PAF clubs. They've not signed anybody really over the age of say 30, apart from maybe the odd player like Nacho. That's the only difference. There's not these clubs that they're not really signing players like people. There was the hype about, is Salah going to go? Is De Bruyne going to go? These players are over 30 now. Casemiro falls into that bracket as well. Not a lot of these players have been signed, and that's what I mean by the PAF scheme. It depends on what sort of players they want to aim for per window. Whether they want to aim for, say, younger talent, like, for example, Diaby from Aston Villa, who's a player who fits that younger profile, or do you go for experienced veteran players, like they tried to convince Toni Kroos onto the project before he retired, and he ended up saying, no, I want to retire at Real Madrid and set my career out, and that's it. They tried it with Luka Modric as well. They've not convinced him away from Madrid. They tried the same thing with Casemiro before he left Real Madrid, but that was before the Saudi Pro League was properly established. They just had connections there. They've followed into United, the connections, but the difference is the PAF clubs, the PAF scheme, they've just not, and the officials, they've just not come forward and made United an offer. And the way that you deal with the Saudi clubs is you don't go to them and force players on them. They come to you and they say, this is what a fair price is. What's your price? And then they negotiate closer to your number, and then they buy it for whatever the lowest that they can get it for. That's how PAF clubs run, effectively. So, inevitably, they've got a lot of interest in Casemiro. They're just not getting any offers. Eriksen is prohibited under certain leagues for where he can play, so it's a hard sell to do. And McTominay is a player that they don't really want to get rid of, but they have a price in mind that they would get rid of him because it'd suit them better for PSR. That's effectively the remit over the three of them.
Okay. Thank you for that, Tom. I appreciate the update here. Let me just quickly go into some comments again. Big up, Sheikh Man. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Against the chat. So let's quick. I'm sorry. Big up Eddie as well, man. Hope you're doing well. Make sure you go and subscribe to big unsubscribe to Eddie's Footballs channel, man. Puts a lot of good waffles there. All good. Okay. I guess let's move on to, I think, to defensive wise, because obviously we'll talk about outgoings regarding Sancho, but obviously the whole De Ligt thing has been has sort of stalled, I guess. Awaiting. So, and I think I'll just go back to, I think this was Evan Carpy's question about reports tonight the United will walk away from De Ligt as buying all the price, but they might haggle the price down, then surely also De Ligt for cheaper. So regarding the centre back situation, because we obviously know that Euro's injured, and you're sort of telling me that we're gonna basically you start with Lisandro and probably because Varane's gone, so we're starting with Lisandro and one of Maguire or Lindelof, which is quite interesting. So is there anything? Is there anything regarding the centre back situation, Tom? Like, what's going on here?
Well, they'd planned, right, the way that United had done it was they'd planned it with Lenny Yoro, where Lenny Yoro was the player that they wanted to try and get out of all of them. Branthwaite was the one they had their eye on. That's the one that they saw as, he's not at the Euros. It's an easy deal to do on the player's side. We can get it agreed within a day or two to get him to come. We can pay him well. We'll increase his wages. He'll come. That was all agreed with Branthwaite and his cam. The difference was Everton just weren't biting. They weren't prepared to haggle. They weren't prepared to bargain with United. So they put in bids that they think was quite reasonable for the value of the player at the time of the development he is now. They didn't take it. So they thought, okay, Everton, you've had your chance, you've blown it. We're going to go off in a different direction. They got Lenny Yoro in as a bit of a security net. And now what I mean by security net is when they bought Lenny Yoro, the plan was if we need him on the tour, he's going to be a starting centre-back, which he was up until he got injured in the Arsenal game. He was going to be that starting centre-back at the side of whoever was on the tour. And when you got to the final, say at the weekend, if you didn't sign that second centre-back out of Branthwaite or De Ligt, then Lenny Yoro was going to take their place until you can sign another player. That's the way that it was going to work. The problem is, they're in a position now where Lenny Yoro, the safety net's suddenly gone because he's injured. He's out of action for 3 months. He can't do anything about it. It puts United in a struggling position to negotiate because Bayern know that United are desperate for players. They know that they're desperate to buy a centre-back. And like any other club, if United went in for another centre-back, they're going to do the exact same thing that Bayern are doing right now. You need a player to fill that spot. You've just lost the new signing. You need a player. You're going to have to pay what it takes. Otherwise, we're not going to sell him. So United are almost fighting a losing battle already. The difference is United tried to get around the whole De Ligt thing because they tried to incorporate both De Ligt and Mazraoui in the same deal.
Yeah.
And we said, okay, put both players together. They're under the same agency, so terms and everything's agreeable between both of them. Both of them, if that bid would have been accepted, both of them would have left the Bayern training camp on the same private jet with the same agent and come to United on the same day and signed. The difference was they didn't accept the proposal because Bayern want an overall buyout proposal for both of them of up to 60 million for both. Reasonably speaking, to get two defenders with the level of experience that they have for 60 million is a decent deal in Bayern's eyes. The difference with United is they don't think both players are valued at that because they think their careers have stalled ever since they've gone to Bayern. So they want to bargain them down to 50 for both of them. 20 for Mazraoui and 30 overall for De Ligt. And if that means they have to put add-ons in the deal for De Ligt, so then they get to 55, then they'll go to 55. But they don't want to pay it for both of them. That's the difference. So the problem is, Bayern don't want to do a joint offer deal. They want to do separate deals for both players separately. Because they believe that they'll get a better deal out of it if they sell them separately than as a joint together deal. Which, reasonably speaking, is a better deal for the selling club to do it that way. But for the buying club, it's better to do them both together. But the selling club holds both players. And United need players right now. So they're not in a position to bargain. As far as the comment was from, I can't remember who put it up, Jay, anyway, about if they're going to walk away or not. As far as I'm aware right now, they are working on trying to sell Aaron Wan-Bissaka to West Ham. West Ham, as far as I'm aware, are prepared to go to 18 million, but United want 20. So there's a little bit more wiggling there to do to try and get it. But also, Wan-Bissaka's holding the deal up now because he wants a £3 million payoff to leave Manchester United. For the wages that he will lose for this final year of his contract, he'll lose upwards of £3 million. He wants United to cover the windfall of it. And Manchester United have basically said, we're not going to do that, Aaron. So you either accept the offer to go now, or we're going to have problems later. Or you're going to leave for free, but you're going to have problems for 12 months while you're still at this football club, which could be you might fine him for a couple of weeks' wages, you might not play him, you might exile him.
Well, I mean,
it'll get messy.
You say that, Tom, but the thing is, what choice do we have? Because you could see that he's in a power position because if we don't end up signing a fullback, United only have Dalot, Malacia, and Shaw. So if you're going to exile him and punish the guy, then you're going to be reliant on what? Injury-prone Luke Shaw, Malacia, who we're not going to be, and Dalot. So who are we gonna play? Obviously, Ten Hag is probably gonna go. Listen, I need to play a fullback. So I understand that from a power position, even though Ineos want to say, okay, we should strengthen, we should do whatever. It's not like we have an abundance of fullbacks to choose from, or reliable fullbacks. So.
Yeah,
I don't know. This is why, unless, for example, unless you want to promote like Harry Amas and give him more game time and do that, maybe, So I don't know.
One of the pointers with left back that has only just emerged in the last couple of days was when they got back from the tour, or the tour had ended, they've made assessments on a couple of players. So, for example, Toby Collier and Harry Hamas was the two main players that they were making assessments on, how well they did on the tour. And United had looked at it and thought, how would it best be to develop these players? Would it be to leave them within the squad setup of the first team and develop kind of like how Kobe Mino did last year? He was quite good in the training drills and sessions. The manager gave him an opportunity at a time when he had an injury crisis, and he just stuck. And he's stuck in that squad ever since. He took that chance. Harry Hamas is going to be a similar situation to that. They've made the assessment of him that unless a club comes in with a decent loan fee offer as a payout for a straight loan for a full year, and it's a good value for a young player from the under-18s academy squad, then they will send him out on loan. But as it stands right now, the plan is they want to keep him and integrate him within the first team setup for this season. And if it means that he has to come in and he gets 20 minutes here, or he might start a Europa League game or a Carabao Cup game, or the odd game in the Premier League maybe, if you have injuries, they'll give him the opportunities. And he's going to be like a third spare man. He's going to be like the backup of it all. But he will compete in, say, under 23, under 21s participation matches. And then he might get called up to the first team throughout. Toby Collier is a little bit different. If they can get a loan option for Toby Collier, this is if they sign a midfielder. So Toby Collier is like a standby option, where if we can't sign a midfielder, we're just going to make sure we've got enough options to cover all bases in the eventuality we don't sign one. But the plan and project is that they will sign a midfielder by the end of the window. That's the that's the hypothesis. So Toby Collier is on the open market to try and get a loan, but United are just trying to put him and look at the markets and say, where would he fit in best to develop? Would it be put him in the Championship? Should we try and get him in a Premier League club? Should we try maybe send him abroad? We don't, and that's effectively where they're trying to assess it. Where would he best develop? What league and what environment for his career, and then bring him back in 12 months' time. So effectively, over the two of them, that's the way that they're trying to integrate it. But again, like I was saying, we say Mazraoui, the difference in option is if they can sell one Bissaka and this windfall tax of £3 million that he's basically wanting, effectively, United have pinpointed it onto West Ham to say, just pay him a little bit more. Pay him a little bit more, and we'll be a little bit more lenient on negotiations, and we'll lower his asking price slightly. That's effectively where they've come. So United wanted 25 in the beginning. They've said, we'll come down to 20, so long as you offer him more money to make up for the windfall of £3 million.
I see.
But United want to set this culture and environment to say players cannot demand to be paid off to leave this club. Maguire tried to do it 12 months ago with West Ham. He wanted 10 million to go and pay out the rest of his contract. United said no. Far too much money. If they weren't going to pay 10, they weren't prepared to pay 5. When Alexis Sanchez was here, he wanted 5 million to leave Manchester United. They didn't pay it. They don't pay ransom fees for players to leave the club. That's the way that United are effectively now. They weren't that before, but they're definitely not that now with competent people in charge. So if he wants to leave, you can get a comfortable wage at West Ham. You might get slightly less than what you're on, but you're in an environment where you live closer to home, where you're from. You live closer to family, friends. Your life is in London, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. It's not in Manchester. That's that's where United are trying to bargain with it. So effectively, Mazraoui, as soon as it gets done for, say, Aaron Wan-Bissaka to go to West Ham, Mazraoui, the deal would fly through straight away. And then I don't think it'd be that far away, because then United and Bayern would have an agreement on one player. They're on good terms. They've got a good relationship and understanding of how each other want to do business. So then I think the De Ligt deal will come on a little bit later on, especially when they want to sign Tar. So effectively, what I mean is, it's like playing a game of chess. When Bissaka will go out the door at United, Mazraoui will come in, so it frees up a defensive spot in that Bayern setup. They can sign Tar, and then they'll probably move De Ligt out as another pawn on the chessboard, and then United will buy him for, say, a reasonable catchment price. That's the way that they're trying to work it. But at the end of the day, 3 priorities that they want right now, if they can get them, is sell Wan-Bissaka, sign Mazraoui, sign Delay, sign a midfielder, but we're trying to we're reassessing his options in midfield, and we're gonna use our graphics. Then it's gonna basically pinpoint us on one player which fits everything that we want, and as soon as that player is pinpointed, we'll target them and we'll go full throttle. That's the way that United are going for it.
Thank you for that update, Tom. Really appreciate it. I've got work at midnight, so we only got about half an hour. So get your questions in. Let me quickly. I think there was a question. I think it was Solo, yes. And then I think I'll big up Jarvis and Matty in the chat. I can see you guys as well. Appreciate it. So it says Tom, are United looking for one out and one in? Are United seen as desperate in the market when it comes to sales? And are United willing to maybe buy first and sell later?
Well, if I answer the latter part of that question, that's effectively what they've done. That's effectively what they've done right now. They've bought already in Xerxes. They paid the release clause. They paid a little bit more than the old clause. His release clause was 64.7. I think they've ended up paying in and around 36 pounds overall, which means that they get to pay it over a longer period by paying a little bit more. So it stretched them out a little bit so they can still target another player. They then signed that other player, which was Lenny Yoro. Unfortunately, circumstances have happened and he's got injured. United couldn't foresee that happening. Leo certainly didn't, and he certainly didn't. It's one of those unfortunate circumstances that's happened. They're in a position now where if they can sell players who, like they thought they were going to get a decent chunk of money for maybe McTominay, they thought somebody at PAF would have stepped forward and thrown the hand at Casemiro by now. They would have thought they would have had a lot more interest in these players. Same thing with Wan-Bissaka. They're trying to push him to get him to go as quickly as they can, get a deal with West Ham, get him to agree terms to go to West Ham, sell him to West Ham, and you've got the money coming in already. That's effectively the way that they've done it. And to answer the first part of the question, Solo, that is correct. The policy is one in, one out. So Wan-Bissaka's out at right back. We want to sign a right back. If we could sell a midfielder, like a McTominay or whatever, it frees up another spot in the midfield. Or they already need one, but it gives them cash reserves to then go and buy one with the money that they get for that player. The same thing at centre-back, where if they could have sold Maguire or Lindelof, then they would do so. But again, the interest in these players is there. Nobody's just come forward with any substantial offers that are interested in United at all. Some clubs, listen, in the football market, some clubs make offers for players that are so disrespectful they don't even get publicised. That's how bad they are. So, for example, you might have a player that some club might value at, say, 30 million. You might have a club from, let's say, Turkey, who will come in and say, we'll pay you €8 million. That's not even £5 million. It's not going to get reported on because it's not substantial enough to even get close to an agreement. It'll just get withdrawn straight out of hand. So the context of it is, effectively, they've already bought first and are trying to sell later, which is now. But as soon as they sell a player, they can then move one in. That's effectively how they're trying to do it. So if Wan-Bissaka moves out, fine, Mazraoui can come in. If you get a spot in midfield, they already have one open now. Okay, we'll sign a player in there. But if we can move a player out as well, brilliant. The Greenwood money helps us out because it gives us the leeway to sign a centre-back, but we just don't want to get ripped off for Delay. That's effectively how they're doing it. They can sign Delay tomorrow if they wanted for the money that Bayern's asking for, but they want to bargain with them. They don't want to pay over the odds. It's a new United. That's the way that they've portrayed it in the market. We're not Manchester United of old. We're Manchester United of new. We'll pay fair prices, and if you're not going to agree with us, they've already walked away from two high-profile deals already in Branthwaite and Ugarte because they don't like the price. So if the price doesn't match, then they're going to go somewhere else.
Fair play. Thanks for that, Tom. Appreciate it. Let's have a look at some comments here. West Ham are looking at Trippier. Interesting. West Ham are actually cooking, to be honest, this window. Low key, they are. They've made some good signs. I think the Falkirk signing was very, very good. But big up Jarvis, man. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Make sure you guys go over and subscribe to his channel. Makes a lot of very good content. So like, oh, are you in Malaga, man? Jarvis, I hope you're enjoying it. I need a vacation as well. I don't know when I'm going to get it, but I need one. Sami says, is Bissaka still going? Did De Jong take a pay cut? I think, and Wan-Bissaka is still here, and De Jong, as I think I see a comment here from De Jong yeah, it is. We addressed it earlier on in the stream. Yeah, like there's no De Jong to United deal. Like it's not happening. It's not. So yeah, that's the answer. De Jong turn is not happening. It's not. I wish Manchester United were like Chelsea. I don't. What would they doing? Carl Gallagher will force him out of the club. And well, I mean, to be fair, he's an academy graduate. And they've got about 50 million for the guy. So I wouldn't say they forced him out. I think that given that they've spent a lot of money, they've made, much like we did, 50 million on a player that's an academy graduate. So that's money in the bank. So, and to be honest, I'd also make a case that if you watched the season last season, Conor Gallagher was probably Chelsea's best midfielder. I don't know what Caicedo or Enzo were doing, but they certainly weren't playing well for Chelsea. But who knows? Who knows? What else? De Jong to... So it's unfortunately, wages on players like Lindelof, Maguire, and all these that will have to take a loss. At no point in trying to negotiate how our clubs will like. Well, the contracts are coming up soon, so great shows as well. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Just see any comments. I think how much is someone will pay up? It was 3 million, wasn't it, Tom? Is that correct?
Yeah, he wants the 3 million payout there.
Fine, okay. See questions. Tom, the team back in the UK, what has come out about how is the mood in the camp and how players feeling about the style of play? This is a good question, actually.
Yeah, I know we've discussed this before on tour, but ever since they've come back as well, the morale in the camp with United is actually very positive and optimistic for the season. They like the introductions of René Hack and Ruud van Nistelrooy. Particularly the way that United had been run last summer when they had the pre-season in America, they had 3 coaches who all influenced training and the structured regime of the training, and they led the instruction. They led the whole training session together, 3 of them, which was Steve McLaren, Michel van der Gaag, and Erik Ramsey at the time. All 3 of them have subsequently left the club. Michel van der Gaag's gone on to pastures now and he wants to try and be a number 1 coach. Steve McLaren's gone to be Jamaica's head coach. And then Erik Ramsey took an opportunity to go over to the US. All 3 of them have now left the club. There's one person who leads the training, sets the training, and that's final. And that's René Hack. Now, he's a very authoritarian character, from what I've been told. Especially within the United camp, they like the sort of vibe that he gives. He's a very firm coach, but he's a disciplined coach where if something's not right, or there's maybe a space that you shouldn't be leaving, you're out of position by maybe a couple of yards, he stops the drill, he stops the training drill, and you reassess and you go again. So, for example, when you set up a training drill, let's say you're you have 11 players on one pitch side and you have 11 on the other side of the pitch. You put players in certain areas of the pitch and you try and break it down for them. Effectively, a defender, if you're not 5 yards in close behind the defender, when a ball's in the air or aerially coming towards you to defend, if you're not within 5 yards of the player, they stop the drill training and they tell you where you need to be. And they'll put you in the right position, resume, replay, ball comes in, and then you resume and then instigate. If something else goes wrong, okay, you don't win the fallback of the header. Right, where do you need as a recovery defender? If that defender's not already instinctively know where to be, okay, stop the drill training again, put you in the right position. You need to be here, not here. And then they just practice it and he drills it into the players. But the difference is he's disciplining it and breaking it down for them. So people call it in football the finer details. The finer details is what's in the remit. So effectively, what he's telling them is minor, but minor details in football can make a hell of a lot of a difference when it comes match day. Those minor details save you a goal or score you a goal. That's the finer details of it. And from what I've understood anyway with Ten Hag's influence, on the squad. He effectively is letting Rene Hack run the coaching department of the coaching and training pitch, and he's assessing players, and where he wants to have an input in, he inputs in with the training drills. Ruud van Nistelrooy is a visionary coach. He's not a coach who's very big on communicating with players and saying, this is where you need to be. He's not an authoritarian coach. He's a visionary. He reads the game. He reads where the coaching style is going, where the system is, what sort of players need maybe a little bit of work. And effectively what Ruud van Nistelrooy's greatest role is, from what I know about his time at PSV, and he's brought it to United, is he's very big on one-to-one connection with players. So, for example, if he sees a player's maybe having a bit of a hard time in the training drill, he'll pull them to one side, discuss it technically with them to say, this is where you're going wrong, kid. Technically, you need to be maybe a bit sharper. You need to be 5 yards closer to here or there. And he pulls them away from the drilling setup. He shows them the improvements of it and then puts them straight back into the setup and then see if they improve effectively. And then especially from the attacking output of players, he's had a massive influence on a lot of the attacking forward players. One of which that he's apparently had a very good connection with ever since he first arrived was Amad Diallo. Amad's taken to his coaching style very well because it's very similar to what he had been previously at the academy at Atalanta, where the systemized with Italian style had always been that you have direct running input play from not just cutting inside, but outside direct running. So you're good on both sides, either way that you go. Whereas, say, the style of Dutch coaching has always been to cut inside, which is something that, say, Anthony's been developed and played into effectively. He's been coached that way. Whereas Amad's been coached a different style way, which is what suits towards Ruud van Nistelrooy more because it's what he's used to. That's what he's coached under. So effectively, the morale of the squad is they've taken to the coaches very well. They like the coaches. They like the discipline that they're giving them. But also, they're taking it on board because if they're doing something wrong, they're not just letting them get away with it and just saying, look, this is where you're going wrong. They're showing them where you need to be. They're showing them the improvements of what you need to do and where the areas that you need to be in. That's effectively what they've said. So they're breaking it down for the players simplistically to say, this is where you're going wrong. Let's improve on this, and then we'll try again. And it's a trial and error situation. But if you want one-on-one influence and coach, Ruud van Nistelrooy's your guy. Ten Hag oversees the whole training session, and he has his input where he believes it sees fit. But he's trusting in his staff, and Rene Hack in particular has been one of the most influential coaches that he's brought in because the players have taken to him very well.
I appreciate it, Tom. I've got 20 minutes left, so I'm going to be trying to quick. So I'm going to one question in the chat, and then we're probably going to just briefly summarize it with outgoings with Sancho and a few other things. So where did I pick it? Oh, big up Stephanie, man. Stephanie, hope you're doing well, Stephanie. Big up. Thank you for in the chat. Make sure you like the video. You know, we've got 40 plus people watching, guys. Let's get to 40 likes, guys. Come on. If you're watching, if you haven't watched already, smash the like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I don't go as live as much, although I will be live this weekend. But yeah, please support the channel, man. I really appreciate it. So get those likes up. Keep some. Let me just see if I can find that question. Where was it? So I think it was from. Scroll up. Yes, here we go. Segan says, "Are we in for Fofana?"
The answer is yes. Fofana again, like I said, with the midfield targets, Richard Rios, Sanderberg, and Fofana. Out of the alternatives to Manuel Ugarte, they're the most probable three that I've heard of. Andre's another one that's been mentioned, but he's not as high on the list as the three that I've just mentioned. Rios had a very good campaign at the Copa America with Colombia. He's a very young player. He's raw. He's kind of similar in the model of what, say, they've got right now with Kobe Mino in terms of development. He's at a young age where he's one of those players where he's ready to explode. He's ready to blow up onto the market, but he needs to move to a bigger league to achieve it and develop. He needs to move away from South America. until they get away from that market, he can't really fully show his potential on a world stage, on a big stage. So he's one of those players. Same thing with Sander Berge. The difference with Sander Berge is he's a bit more older, he's a bit more experienced, he's got a point to prove. Fofana is in the similar boat as what Sander Berge is, where he's got a point to prove. He's 25 years old. He's getting to that age where he needs that big move now. If he's going to get a big move, he needs it to come now. Fofana, again, is one of those standby players. As far as I'm aware, United have spoken to his camp briefly. They've put the connections out there. And this is what I said before. They've got the connection with Sander Berge's camp. They've got the connections with Fofana's camp. I'd probably expect them to make contact with Rios's representatives, especially within the connection, with connections wise, agencies. And then from there, they can almost pin them against each other and say, okay, who can we get a better deal for? And who also fits what we want? And then that's what I meant by where they'll put all of the logistics together for all the players. And then, okay, who fits exactly what we want? Football sense, financial sense, and which one can we get done as quickly as possible? What fits us best, but also efficiently to get it done quickly? So Fofana is a player that they like. They like the profile of him. They think he fits the bill. He's probably the most experienced out of all of the players for what he's done in football. But the only connection and difference is he's never had that big step-up club. So you've got three players. Do you go for the player who's untested in a big league but has shown a lot of potential in a big competition, like the Copa America? But you also had players who had big tournaments and got big moves before, like James Rodriguez, for example. Did he live up to the hype? Irving Lozano, did he live up to the hype when he had that quite decent time with Mexico? These players, again, you have highlight tournaments, but club football and international football is different.
It's different.
So do you go for the potential player? Do you go for the player who's got a point to prove in Sander Berge? Or do you go for the player who's not had that big move yet, but he's waiting on it in Fofana? So, again, you've got three options there, but they're the more probable three options out of all the targets. But again, if PSG came back to the table and they said, okay, we'll lower his offer for Ugarte, Manchester United would go straight back there and they would forget all these other targets.
Fine. So just fine, because obviously sorry, I've got in the next 50 minutes. So we'll just speak a bit. If we're quick, maybe we can address some more questions. But I think we'll just quickly go into outgoings now, because obviously we spoke a lot about, understandably, players coming in, and we kind of did touch a bit about like Eriksen and Casemiro. I really did talk about those. But I think the big one, outgoing wise, is. A little bit about Maguire. So I think the big one really is about Sancho. Sancho, I think, is the one that there seems to still be some talk about whether he might be going to PSG, often not certain, etc. I don't think there's really anyone else in the attacking line that we're thinking of moving on. I think anything regarding Rashford going is nonsensical. He's not going anywhere. So, Tom, do you have any information about the additional outgoings that Manchester are trying to work on? Specifically Sancho, but there are others as well that we not mentioned. Do you have any information about that?
Yeah, there's what you said about PSG was correct. It would have been about 10 days ago. PSG was very interested in Jadon Sancho. They thought that he'd been unfairly treated at Manchester United. They felt like the potential of a player like Sancho and the talent, it doesn't go away, but it can be underwhelmed in terrible or hard circumstances. And that's what I mean by that they didn't feel like he got treated correctly with the situation that happened between him and the manager and the way that the club had proceeded with that. PSG would have dealt with it in a different way to how Manchester United would have done. And they believe that Sancho would have been a lot more happy, and they would have also kept the credentials and the reputation of the coach well. It was a matter that should have been kept behind closed doors, and they believe that's a failure of Manchester United's management or mismanagement last season of him. Effectively, PSG had looked at him. They thought, okay, for Sancho, United was looking at 40, 45. PSG's remit was in and around 30 million. And it was the exact same story with Borussia Dortmund, 30 million, in and around that remit of 30 million. Now, United want to sell him if they can get the money for him, but they're also happy to reintegrate him within the squad because he's burnt his bridges with Ten Hag. They've burnt each other's reputations through the media, but they've now slowly but surely repaired them ever since the pre-season tour. So effectively, they've water over the bridge, but we're going to suddenly see if you get an option and you get an offer on the table. That's your decision, Jadon. If it fits us financially, we're happy to let you go. But if it's what you want, so effectively they're trying to have a good working relationship with Sancho again. Effectively, is what I'm saying. And then with PSG again, like I say, the interest was there. It's quietened down a lot ever since then. One of the options, though, that I have heard about in the last couple of days had actually been Aston Villa. Now, Aston Villa, as you know, with Diaby going to Saudi, the money that they'd recouped from the deal was that effectively they would have options there where they've already got Watkins, they've already got players like Zaniolo, and they've just obviously signed Onana into the club as well. But the PSR scheme at the moment with the Premier League is quite tight on Aston Villa's budget. So they haven't got 50 million, they haven't got the 45 to pay United straight away if they want to sign Sancho. So again, they was looking in the remit of 30 to 35 million all in. And they would have paid majority of the money up front and then paid, say, 5 in add-ons. So say 30 plus 5. But it doesn't fit what United want financially, PSR-wise as well, because United are going to have to make a loss on what they paid for him 4 years ago. So, effectively, United, they have to accept a loss on the player, but they just want to limit the loss as much as they can. And clubs aren't prepared to cut United slack in that regard for it. And again, they are going to play on the heartstrings of, well, 6 months ago, you exiled him from the squad. You know, if and it is an if, because it was an option at the time, United considered terminating his contract.
True.
That was one of the protocols that people sometimes forget. They didn't consider that. So so clubs are going to push on this to say to Jadon, well, that club didn't really care about you. You don't want to stay there. And then suddenly you might get Sancho change his morale and attitude. I don't think he would because he's repaired the bridges like. But clubs will try and do this. They will try and get in players' heads to say, listen, it's not right for you. United did it with Yoro to convince him to come to United instead of Madrid. They don't believe in you. They don't care about you. They've not even put a bid in for you. We've put our money where our mouth is. So, effectively, the personal problems have been put to one side, but it has to meet the financial package that United want. Otherwise, they won't sell him.
Okay. Thanks for the update, Tom. I appreciate that. I mean, I wasn't even aware, Adam, about the Sancho Villa links. But yeah, I could certainly see how something like that could work. So thanks for giving that update to us, Tom, and hopefully everyone in the community is aware of that as well. Good. So there you go. There's Shay. Tom, you explained things so much better. I could listen to your day. There you go. There you go. So there you go. So yeah, because Tom does this for guys. You got it in the chat. Like, I'll make this aside. Tom does this for free. He's a really nice guy. I've known him for it must be quite a long time actually.
Yeah,
definitely years.
Yeah, years. Yeah.
So he volunteers to do this. So like it's his free time he's giving it, and he gives none of this kind of speculative clickbait sort of nonsense, but actually genuine news, reliable news with good sources as well. So like you're not going to get this. It's very difficult to get this stuff like for free, let alone to obviously ask your individual questions to this guy. So really please, appreciate it. Do it by either supporting the channel, obviously making sure that you go and follow him on Twitter at TomJournalist1, and just show him some love because he's a really sound guy. So yeah, I guess so. Is there any other aside from Sancho, Tom? Is there anyone else the United are trying to actively, aside from obviously we already talked about Casemiro and Eriksen, etc. So, but is there anyone else in the team that United are trying to kind of actually sort of loan, get rid of? And that includes academy people as well. Anyone else?
Yeah, well, like I said before, Toby Collier is kind of one of those lone sort of saga players.
Mm,
Hannibal's another one where they're
mm,
happy to keep him within the squad, but if a loan option comes along the way, they'll
mm,
take it.
mm,
Again, you've kind of just backed yourself into a corner with it all because
mm,
United know, and Ineos knew this for this summer anyway,
mm,
that clubs aren't going to take them seriously when they say that they are different, they are new. They knew
mm,
that they were going to get tested. They knew that the pressure was going to be there. The only
mm,
thing you can do is kind of try and ream it with clubs to say, okay, we're not going to pay 75 million for a player. So maybe in a couple of seasons' time, when
mm,
you understand how we actually work and operate now, we are
mm,
different. We are new to what we used to be. When we
mm,
come back for maybe a different player in 3 or 4 years' time, you're going to
mm,
respect us a lot more in the boardroom and
mm,
negotiate with us better. And the same
mm,
goes for selling players as well. The problem
mm,
is United don't have a lot of players that they can sell to make a profit on.
mm,
So
mm,
the only odd few that they do that they can make any money on is their youth academy graduate players, which is
mm,
your likes of your McTominays, your Rashfords, your Kobe Mainos, your Colliers, whoever you want to try and sell.
mm,
So again, you're in that situation where if you sell these players, you need to try and get a decent chunk of money for them because they're the
mm,
only ones that really hold much value. You're not going
mm,
to get what you paid back for Sancho. You're not going to get what you paid back for Anthony if you were to sell him. You're not going to get
mm,
what you paid back Casemiro. You're going to have to take a loss on a lot of these players. And
mm,
there's only so many players that you can take a loss on
mm,
before you start looking at your books and you look at it and you think, we spent maybe 500 million on these players in
mm,
total
mm,
over 5 seasons. We've barely got £100 million back for them. We've lost 400
mm,
million in 5 years.
mm.
That they will look at the balance sheet, and they'll look at that and they'll think that stings, that hurts,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and it's one of those where it's a tough pill to swallow. But like I say again, there's a lot of interest in the United players, but clubs just aren't making them offers or reasonable
Mm,
offers anyway.
mm. Yeah, buddy, you're right, man. And this is the thing. This is as and guys, this is as we go into the following season. This is the reality. So I'll be doing a season preview. I'll be getting yourself on, and maybe others to be available so we can discuss it because um I'll just be out honest. I have very low expectations for the season. Um, very, very low expectations for the season. Really, I'm expecting, I'm hoping that if at least if the players are fit, that we can get top six and then maybe push for Europa League win. That's basically because so far from what we've got so far the season, if we start the season what we have now, we've got an injured Lenny Euro and obviously Joshua Zirkzee. That is it. Nothing else has changed, and I don't trust the players to be consistent, and I don't trust the players to stay injury free. So I think anyone realistically going to the season right now and thinking that suddenly we're going to somehow be better, more performant, I just think is the only thing that you could say may have changed is okay, is am I going to get more game time? Is Sancho going to get more involved? Is Lizandra going to sort of stay fit? Maybe those things will help. I don't know. Luke Shaw, etc. So those things will be fine if players stay fit. But I think you can make a case, so that we're potentially even weaker this season when you look of likes of Varane leaving, for example, especially in that sense of the park. We've got about 5 minutes, so I'll see if I can just take just a few quick questions. So Bob, big up Rob, by the way. Thanks, man. Take care, buddy. Really appreciate your ongoing support, man. I appreciate it, man. So Sheikh says something about the left back situation. I'm not sure what I can't. So maybe I'm probably missed. Oh yeah, Tom, what's the situation on the left back with Kadiloglu, Gutierrez, Hanko, etc.?
Yeah, like I was saying before, with the left back, it was a priority based upon coming into the window if they could find
Mm,
the right player to fit the bill. But Harry Hamas had emerged from the academy. They did look at him and say, they did look at the options and say, okay, well, we signed Malassa 12 months ago. We
mm,
have got Shaw and Malassa who are on tight strings in terms of injuries. But the running theory is that they're not going to lose both of them for a
mm,
whole season again. They might lose one of them, but they're not going to lose both of them. That's the
Well,
way that they are trying to think of it. They look at last season as a probability of that you lose both of your left backs in a season. It's almost like 1 in, say, 10 years that you'll ever have that happen, out of seasons wise. 1 in 10 seasons that will ever happen. So the theory of it is, if you lose one of them, Harry Mass will just take up their spot within the squad and be a backup. And be like a kind of a mixture between a youth player for the under-18s, but also for the under-21, sorry, and then also for the first team.
Yeah, I think that just is going to be it. We're going to have to rely on, because I mean, they say it's 1 in 10 years. I think it's even more likely than that, because Luke Shaw's had injury problems at the United since obviously since Van Gaal days. Like that is not unknown. Obviously, and we signed Malacia, so in every new signing is a risk. We signed Malacia, he got injured in the subsequent season. We just signed Yoro, he's just got injured. We signed Haaland, he's picked up injuries. So a lot of our new signs that we picked up, Lisandro was signed. Like, I mean, almost every new signing that Ten Hag has signed within a year has picked up some form of injury that's kept them out of the squad for quite some time. Aside from Onana, he's a goalkeeper, I can't think of anyone else, so that hasn't picked up something. The irony is that someone like Fred, and yes, I am still bitter that Fred left, was never injured, So like I am, yes, he was never injured, and it's one of our quicker, and it's no coincidence that he's left, and our midfield we're having to rely on Eriksen and Casemiro, who are slow and we're being overrun, So, but I'll just put that to one side, So, but let's just see, just quick final questions here. I think Stephanie, you had one from what I can see. Is Jose coming in for Lindelof? Was any still truth regarding that?
Fenerbahce was one of the clubs that have been interested in Lindelof, but also returning to Benfica was one of the options. But again, like I said before, a lot of clubs are interested in him. They're just not making offers. That's the problem.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. Sid, great show, guys. Thanks very much. Late on Ivan Toney getting linked to us. That's kind of died down a bit, And we're talking about trying to sign another centre back, given Euro's injured and a midfielder. Let alone even additional striker, which I agree. I think we need, but I feel like that would have been ideal if we had if, for example, the Ugarte situation and the De Ligt and mazraoui deals had happened. Then I think you can then go and talk about, we can potentially get striker Ivan Toney. And you're thinking, okay, maybe we've got a good window. But now those 3 signs have stalled. I don't even think even United even going there. I mean, I assume that's the case, Tom. Like, a striker is just is not on the cards, is it?
No, it's off the map at the moment. And again, they've got, if they sell a right back, they have to sign one to cover the spot. If they sell a centre half, well, they've already got rid of one anyway in Varane for free. They have to replace him. If they got rid of a midfield, there's already a spot open and a vacancy open that they need to fill to try and replace Casemiro in the long-term future. But they could also do with maybe getting one out and another one in. So you've got, it's kind of like the Titanic. Your ship's sinking. You're trying to plug it with all these holes and fill a player in here and there. But when you lose a player and you put a player in, you're not gaining any squad depth. The only difference is you're just gaining a better player in that one position. But then if that player gets blown out with an injury, you're back to what you used to again. And this is what I said before, when you sign someone like Lenny Yoro, if they got injured or Lisandro Martinez got injured, you're back to Maguire and Lindelof. And we know how that ends at Manchester United. So these problems again, it's just one of those coincidences. With Toney again, like I said, they don't have the time at the moment. They've got other priorities to sign other than another number 9. But Toney has been one of those players that they have looked at in the last 12 to 18 months as to be one of those high-profile players that they might turn to in the future.
Fair enough, guys. I know you've got a couple of questions, but I've got to head to work, unfortunately. So, but thanks everyone so much for getting involved in the chat. Obviously, we'll We'll be live this weekend. So I think a few things are coming up this weekend. Number one, the watch along for the Community Shield City. That's going to be on this weekend, so stay tuned to that. And we are going to be doing a season preview this weekend for the upcoming season. I think essentially as soon as the Community Shield is that the Community Shield match is done, we'll probably be doing a season preview, really figuring out what the hell is going to go on, what are the expectations, etc. So stay tuned for that as well. There should be a best starting 11 show as well, and obviously we'll be trying to keep our, if anything changes, obviously transfer update news, etc. Obviously we aim to obviously go live and address those concerns, but yeah, guys, thanks everyone for getting involved. Really appreciate it. Remember, if you're new to the channel, to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter, We Unite X, and smash the notification button. Obviously, make sure you check out Tom at Tom Journalist1 on Twitter as well. Have a nice day, everyone, and cheers. Peace.
Peace.